plug this thing in, and alright, we're ready to go. Going live at a better time now when it's not sweltering hot. So let's see, do I remember where I left off? I think I left off at screen. So yeah, so we'll start with the run and go. And actually, let me remind myself what the lyrics are for the run and go. Oh, yeah. Okay. This one is, I like the theme of the chorus where he's talking about, I don't want to open up, I don't want to share too much. You'll have to watch me struggle from several rooms away, but tonight I need you to stay. Yeah, I like that. I like the lyrics on this one. And I like the little whistling. Yeah. I put that in B tier. It's a good song. Next up is Fake You Out. Ooh, yeah. This one is A tier. This one, I always forget about this one. This is one of my favorites off of this album. Definitely A tier. Oh, and I love this lyric. You say that you are close, as close the closest star. You just feel twice as far. You just feel twice as far. Man, that's yeah, that hits hard for me because it feels like he's calling out to God. You say that you are close, as close the closest star. You just feel twice as far. You just feel twice as far. Yeah, really good, solid A tier. All right, next up, Guns for Hands. This is one where I'm not sure what he's talking about. It sounds like he's talking about ending it all, but I'm not sure because he's talking about he paints a picture in the second verse about he's talking to these people who have guns for hands. I don't know, but I would put it in B tier. It's a good song. Maybe C tier. I would say, yeah, I'm gonna go with C tier. High C tier. Next up is Trees. And like I said with the Regional at Best version of Trees, it's such a good song that even the bad version on Regional at Best is good, at least in my personal opinion. The Vessel version is the good version, which means that Trees is. I'm gonna put it in. I think S tier. Yeah, actually, Trees is one of my favorite songs from this band. I don't think it's in my top 5, but it's up there. Maybe an honorable mention for my top 5. Next up is. Well, hang on. Let me talk about Trees, because this is this was another one that really spoke to me when I first started listening to this album. I know where you stand, silent in the trees, and that's where I am, silent in the trees. Why won't you speak where I happen to be? Silent in the trees, standing cowardly. I can feel your breath, I can feel my death. I want to know you, I want to see, I want to say hello. Yeah, hits you right there if you've ever experienced that struggle with your faith. But I'll move on. Next up is Truce. I love Truce. It kind of solidified that stay alive thing, which is kind of cringe, that the way that kids use it online. You know, they say, stay alive, friend. Stay alive, friend. Like, I don't know, it seems a little bit melodramatic the way that kids online talk about, stay alive. Uh, but yeah, it's a very good song. I'll put it in A tier. Truce is A tier for me. And a very pretty little song. Great way to end the album, which means that we're moving on to Blurryface, which I have the disc somewhere, but I have misplaced it. And I'll probably just wind up buying another one eventually. Starting off with Heavy Dirty Soul. Can you save my heavy dirty soul? This one, it sets the tone for the album pretty well because it's kind of heavy and dirty. I mean, if, no pun intended. Yeah, pun intended, honestly. But it's like very rock. It's like, especially on the bridge, the little instrumental part on the bridge really makes you, it's got a good energy about it. I will put it in A tier. And then Stressed Out, the song everybody knows. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days. I mean, it's a good song. It used to annoy me a little bit because it was so overplayed on the radio that, it kind of ruined the song for me. But, I went back and listened to it recently, and it's like, it doesn't feel that way anymore because it's been so long. And Stressed Out's just a good song. And a good number two, a good second track, because I don't know, I lost that thought. But Stressed Out's a good song, A tier. And then Ride, again, A tier. It also blew up. And I really like On a Ride. I really like in the rap, he says, I'd die for you, that's easy to say. We have a list of people that we would take. A bullet for them, a bullet for you, a bullet for everybody in this room, but I don't seem to see many bullets coming through. Metaphorically, I'm the man, but literally, I don't know what I'd do. I'd live for you, and that's hard to do, even harder to say when you know it's not true, even harder to write when you know that's a night. There were people back home that tried talking to you, but then you ignore them still. All these questions are falling like, who would you live for? Who would you die for? And would you ever kill? That verse, I thought about that verse so much when that song came out, and that's why I have it memorized like off the top of my head. I can just because I have thought about those questions a lot before. It's like when I was a kid, there was this question of, it's a real popular question growing up in evangelical circles. Would you die for Christ? Because there was a very famous example in Columbine where uh, one of the lunatics that was shooting up the school, he puts a gun to this one girl's head, who she was a known follower of Christ, and he says, "If you renounce Christ, then I will let you live." And so, gun to her head, she refuses to renounce Christ, and then, of course, she is no longer with us. And so there was always that question that people had when I was a kid, like, would you die for Christ? And then, I started to think, and I was like, well, he doesn't ask for just your death. He doesn't just ask for your last moments. He asks for the whole thing, your entire life. So, it's easy to say, I die for you. That's easy to say. We all have a list of people that we would take a bullet for them, a bullet for you, a bullet for everybody in this room. But we don't seem to see many bullets coming through. It's like, yeah, it's very easy to say I would die for you, but you never get that opportunity. You don't see many bullets coming through. But I live for you. That's hard to do, even harder to say when you know it's not true. Because that is something that you really can do. You can't die for somebody. You have to have that opportunity. But to live for somebody, and the way that I'm applying it, to live for Christ, you have that opportunity every single day. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to live for somebody, and it's even harder to say that you live for somebody if you know that you're not going to do it. And then he goes on and he says, even harder to write when you know that tonight there were people back home that tried talking to you, but then you ignore them still. All these questions are falling, like, who would you live for? Who would you die for? And then that last question, would you ever kill? Which is, and I hadn't thought about that one before. I had thought about who would you die for, who would you live for, but who would you kill for? That kind of threw me off when I first started. I was like, oh, that's interesting to think about, But yeah, Ride, I love that song, and just for that verse, I'm going to put that in S tier because it really made me think. And yeah, there's just a lot packed into that. I'm going to put it as an S tier. I'll say, yeah, middle of S tier, probably. Next up is Fairly Local. This was another single from this album. It kind of popped off. Is this the one with... hang on, let's see. I'm fairly local. I've been around. I've seen the streets you're walking down. I'm fairly local. Good people now. Oh, 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 oh. No, I'm thinking of Lame Boy. But Fairly Local is a good song. I'm going to say A tier. I don't have really strong feelings on that, but I would say Fairly Local probably belongs in A tier. Next up is Tear in My Heart, one of my favorite songs. My favorite of their love songs, maybe second favorite. Tear in My Heart. I really relate to it because, it sounds at first like, she's the one who hurt me. But then you start to think about it. It's like, as I grew up and became a man and started to feel the pressures of the world that there is on men, you're stripped of your emotions, and you're expected to just work like a machine. And so the whole, at the end he says, my heart is my armor. That kind of ties in the whole idea of she's the tear in my heart. It's like, you have this heart of stone, but then she's the one that can crack that stone. And then he says, she's a butcher with a smile. She's a carver. She's the tear in my heart, cut me farther than I've ever been. It's a very sweet idea. And also there's that really fun line. The songs on the radio are okay, but my taste in music is your face. That's really fun. So yeah, Tear in My Heart is S tier. Next up is Lane Boy. I was thinking of Lane Boy. There's that cringe lyric where he says, I wasn't raised in the hood, but I know a thing or two about pain and darkness. And, I mean, people said it was cringe, but I never felt that way. It was like, it's not like he's trying to relate to, he's not trying to say that, my struggles are the same as yours in the hood. But he is saying, we all have our relative struggles, and you can put things in perspective. Yes, you can. Like I, as an American, am not facing the horrors of, what's been going on for my entire lifetime in Central and South America, or in the Middle East, or in Africa, or, there are some really nasty things going on in Asia too. Like, I live in the first world, so realistically, I can't relate. But I do have my own relative struggles that are very real to me, and so I always thought that lyric was just fine, I wasn't raised in the hood, but I know a thing or two about pain and darkness. But this song overall, Lane Boy, I really like the idea of he's crapping on the industry. He's like, this whole industry is just about getting singles on the radio. It's all a numbers game. It's all about popularity. And they say stay in your lane. Stick to your little emo music, because they had been pigeonholed as an emo band, before Blurryface, and there was a huge overlap between fans of 21 Pilots and fans of like My Chemical Romance and Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy and stuff like that. But they were saying, what? They say stay in your lane, boy, but we go where we want to. They think this thing is a highway, but will they be alive tomorrow? It's like, it's all about numbers for the industry. It's all about popularity. And, they try to make you stay in your lane, but are they even going to survive the trends that they're trying to chase? So, yeah, I really like that message. I'm going to put Lane Boy in A tier. High A tier. Just doesn't quite, I don't think it quite has that push to get it into S tier. Next up is The Judge. The Judge is an interesting song. Very, makes you think, and I've never really fully figured this one out. But The Judge, I really like The Judge. You're the judge? Oh no. Set me free. You're the judge? Oh no. Set me free. I know my soul's bleeding. I know my soul's freezing. Hell's hot for a good reason. And then there's somewhere in there he says, I don't know if this song is about me or the devil. It's like he's presenting you with two possible interpretations, and I think that's kind of cool. Is my video choppy? I think no, but The Judge I'm gonna put in B tier. Next up is Doubt, and I really like Doubt. One of my favorite songs on the album. One of my favorite out of that didn't get a lot of attention. Doubt, and Polarize, actually. Actually, I really like all of the songs that didn't get a lot of attention. But Doubt, I would put in A tier. You know, Don't Forget About Me Even When I Doubt You. That feels to me like another song about struggling with faith. Next up is Polarize. This is one that I never figured out. Help me polarize. Those stairs is where I'll be hiding all my problems. Help me polarize. What does that mean, polarize? I don't know. I put that in B tier. It's kind of a, you know, it's an okay song. And then We Don't Believe What's on TV, I think is a love song, but it feels like so wacky. It's just out there. We don't believe what's on TV because it's what we want to see, and what we want we know we can't believe. We have all learned to kill our dreams. I need to know that when I fail, you'll still be here. 'Cause if you stick around, I'll sing you pretty songs and we'll make money selling your hair. But I don't care what's in your hair. I just want to know what's on your mind. Like, see, this is. What is he talking about? We'll make money selling your hair. It's a good song. It's just, it's out there. I put it in B tier. B tier feels right. Next up is Message Man. Message Man feels like, what would I say? Message Man feels like, well, I like what he's talking about in this song. I heard an explanation. Somebody, the way that they interpret this is, people had been concerned that he was encouraging, the whole mental health thing because he talked about it so much in his lyrics. And then, this song was sort of a response to that, where he's saying, people don't understand that what I'm actually doing, what I'm actually trying to do is help people through these struggles. I'm not encouraging not encouraging it. It's just, it's meant to, if we talk about it, then, maybe we can get through it together. And, I like that idea. So, Message Man, I still got to put it in B tier. I mean, it's not, it's a good song, but forgive me from the present. I'm obsessed on all these questions. Why I'm in denial that they tried the suicidal session. Please use discretion when you're messing with the Message Man. It's a good song, but B tier. Next up is Hometown. This is easily A tier. It just sounds so good. A shadow tilts its head at me. Our hometown's in the dark. Not sure what it's about, but if I had the disc with me, I could pull out the lyrics. But alas, I do not. Hometown, good song. Next up is Not Today. Heard you say, not today. How does this song begin? Staying in the same room I was born in. I look outside, see a world better off, without me in it trying to transform it. You are out of my mind, oh. You aren't seeing my side, oh. You waste all this time trying to get to me, but you are out of my mind. Heard you say, not today. Yeah, I like it. I don't know, I guess it's B tier. Sorry, I'm tired. And sometimes I forget, all the thoughts that I've had about these songs, particularly if it's been a long time since I've heard them. But anyway, next up is Goner. Goner is a great final track. It's and it, I've heard that this album is meant to be a loop. So like at the end of Goner, you start to hear the beginning of Heavy Dirty Soul. And so it's like Heavy Dirty Soul starts out with that, heavy, dark, can you save my heavy dirty soul? And then with Goner, and throughout the album, he goes through all of these, themes of, questions and questions and questions. And then at Goner, it's like he comes back to, I want to be known by you. Don't let me be gone. So it's like through all the questions, eventually at the end of the questions, he just has that root, that solid thing to hold on to. Goner is S tier, yeah. And that brings us to the end of Heavy Dirty Soul. Or not Heavy Dirty Soul, Blurry Face. Sorry, like I said, I'm tired. That brings us to the end of Blurry Face. Next up is Trench. Trench, oh, did I say Blurry Face is my, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blurry Face is my 5th favorite album. Really good album. Next up is Trench, my 4th favorite. Jumpsuit again. An amazing first track. Like, it sets the tone for the album so well, especially because I've seen a lot of people say online that this album is cohesive. And what they really mean is that everything kind of sounds like there's a very distinct sound to Trench because there are so many songs that kind of use the same sounds, and particularly the way that Jumpsuit sort of slides into Levitate, the transition is very seamless. And so people say this album is cohesive, and then they measure all the other albums up to Trench, and it's like an album doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to have those seamless transitions. It doesn't have to have the same sounds throughout the album for it to be an amazing album and a cohesive album. So anyway, I'm just saying the criticisms of albums after this I don't think are valid as far as that particular criticism. But anyway, I'm not gonna sit on that one too much. Jumpsuit is great. It's kind of like Heavy Dirty Soul because it has sort of the hardest, heaviest vibe out of everything on the album. Yeah, S tier for Jumpsuit. And then Levitate. Oh, I know how to levitate up off my feet, and ever since the 7th grade I learned to fire, breathe, and know I feed on things I feel. You can learn to levitate with just a little help. Learn to levitate with just a little help. Levitate is A tier. It's a nice chill vibe, coming off of Jumpsuit, going into something that just feels like you can just sort of sit back in the pocket and sort of bob your head, from side to side. Going from Jumpsuit feeling like, headbanger, going from that into Levitate, where it's just just one of these And then up next is Morph, which is kind of in the same vein as Levitate. It's like, I'll morph to someone else, I'm just a ghost. Morph is, I'd say Morph is S tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put it there. Just gonna come out and say that. I like Morph, it's one of my favorite songs from the band. Up next is My Blood. I like it. I like the lyrics. I like the sound of it. It's a good vibe, but it's gonna be B tier because it's not. And it's okay for something to be B tier or C tier. You know, not everything has to be an absolute masterpiece. It's completely fine to make a middle of the road song, but for 21 Pilots, even a middle of the road song is better than a lot of the slop that you hear on the radio. But I mean, that just goes without saying. I don't even need to talk about that. You know, industry music. Yeah, My Blood, B tier. Chlorine. Sipping on straight chlorine. Also B tier. Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on the songs in Trench because it's so based on the lore and the storyline that they have been building on. And also, I'm trying to get through this whole list, you know, without sitting on it too much. I want to chew on the songs that I have strong feelings about, and sort of, you know, maybe breeze through the ones that I don't have strong feelings about. But anyway, up next is Smithereens. It's a really good love song, but it's also kind of weird. Like, he's talking about, you know, he would get his ass kicked. Okay, interesting way to go with your love song. But it's a good song. But it's B tier. It's very much B tier. Next up is Neon Gravestones. S tier. 100% Neon Gravestones is one of their best, I would say, most important songs. You know, talking about the theme of how, you know, the mental health struggles that they've talked about, that, you know, this theme that has been so prevalent in their discography. And, you know, this came at the right time because Trench came out in 18. And so this, I remember being very online in 18 and seeing a lot of the, you know, this was when mental health acceptance was starting to become a lot more mainstream than it had been. And he says, you know, the rise in awareness is good, but, you know, maybe we need to be, you know, we need to consider, are we now glorifying ending it? You know, causing yourself to pass away, kicking the bucket, you know, giving up the ghost. Are we glorifying that? And that was a very good question. Neon Gravestones Call for My Bones. It's like, you know, he's saying I could take the easy way out. You know, I could let that temptation to, you know, I know that I have a great legacy already, and I could, you know, let that be. I could say, you know what, I've done enough with my life. I'll just leave. But he says, you know what, I'm not going to do it. We're not going to glorify this. We're not going to. And he says, promise me this: if I lose to myself, you won't mourn a day, and you'll move on to someone else. That's such a powerful lyric to say, you know, like straight up. I don't want that to be my legacy. And so if that happens, if I do, as he says, lose to myself, you know, giving into, you know, succumbing to the pressure of the mental health battle, um, then he says, move on and forget about me, which is a powerful, it's a powerful lyric, it's a powerful song. Neon Gravestone's amazing, S tier. I had another thought. Oh yeah, I remember 13 Reasons Why was very I think it had just came out, and so it was kind of at the forefront of online discourse or whatever you want to call it. And there was a very strong criticism that it was basically a ending it all revenge fantasy, where and yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna move on from Neon Gravestones and go to the hype. I don't believe the hype, and you're a terrible sight, but you'll be just fine. Just don't believe the hype. It's a good, solid A tier song. Yeah, A tier. And again, no super strong feelings on that one, so I'll move right on to Nico and the Niners, which is a good vibe. A tier, yeah. Next up, Cut My Lip. Cut My Lip is C tier. I have never really been very fond of this song. There's too much that falsetto for my taste. I don't dislike this song, but it's I take it or leave it. Sometimes on a rare occasion I'll skip, but I try not to ever skip a song if I'm listening to an album, because an album is meant to be a wonderful experience. Particularly with this band, they're very intentional about putting an album together. But anyway, moving on from Cut My Lip is Bandito. This has been one that I've seen a lot of people say that, it was very meaningful for them. I never really got that. It's not like that it's not that I don't like the song. It's just, I don't understand what's so meaningful about it for people. But it's a good song. I'll say it's a B tier. I'm a bandito. I'm trying to remember the verse. I don't know. It's a very low vibe. Kind of like Neon Gravestones, I think. Anyway, moving on from that, because again, I don't have particularly strong feelings about Bandito, but Pechita or Pet Cheetah, definitely S tier. This is one of my top fives from this band. It's, I think, their most unique song. Like, nothing even on Trench quite sounds like Pechita. And it's one of those nonsense lyrics kind of songs. Like, it's just fun. Like, he's talking about, I've got a Pechita down in my basement. I've raised him and bathed him and named him Jason Statham. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Mr. Joseph? But yeah, they made a great song with Pechita, and it's S tier for sure. Next up is Legend. I love Legend. It's such, it's a tearjerker, honestly, because he's singing to his dead grandpa. He's, apologizing for not being there when he had dementia. And yeah, Legend is, I love that song. S tier. And then Leave the City, another low vibe song like Bandito. but I really like Leave the City. Um, the Let me see if I can remember the lyrics because I know I have strong feelings about the lyrics. I had a lot of thoughts about it. All right, I'm gonna have to open up Trench. I have, look at this. Trench, Scaled and Icy, and Clancy, but I've never opened them because the CD player in my car doesn't work. So I've just never had a reason to open them. But I am going to open Trench because I really need to remember the lyrics to Leave the City. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. Come on, man. You see this strip? I don't know what kind of tape this is, but it is very strong. Oh, come on now, don't do this to me. Peel, peel, peel. Don't tear, peel. Yes. Alright. Let's see. I need to get the lyrics to... Oh. Oh, wow. Like I said, I never opened this up, so I never got to see the inside. And wow, that's really cool. One of the little things, I tell you what, I've never opened this thing up before. The whole thing that holds the disc in is already busted. Good grief. Anyway, let me see the lyrics to Leave the City because I need to remember why I love this song so much. I'm tired of tending to this fire. I've used up all I've collected. I have singed my hands. It's glowing, embers barely showing, proof of life in the shadows, dancing on my plans. They know that it's almost over. The burning is so low it's concerning, 'cause they know that when it goes out, it's a glorious gone. It's only time before they show me why no one ever comes back with details from beyond. Man, yeah. I remember why I love this song. So, the whole thing about the fire and I've heard this in church, faith is described as a fire. It's like, somebody who has just come to Christ, they've got that blazing, that passion for Jesus. They want to talk to they want to talk to everybody about Jesus. It's a blazing fire, and you think about when you get a bonfire started, and the flames are dancing and it's rising up. Everybody kind of backs off because the heat's so intense. But then, it dies down. But when it dies down, it turns to embers, these glowing coals. And that's where it's radiating this warmth. And that's when people draw in, you warm your hands over those coals. And so I really like how he describes this, I'm tired of tending to this fire. And then he says, it's glowing, embers barely showing. Yeah. And then, oh yeah, the burning is so low it's concerning. Because they know that when it goes out, it's a glorious gone. Yeah, if you think about in terms of the burning and the fire being faith. Well, I think you get the idea. But anyway, going back to the first verse, I've used up all I've collected, I have singed my hands. So the idea of singed my hands reminds me of the blurry face days where he would paint his hands black. And that sounds to me like he's describing sin, like my hands are dirty, my hands are black, they're burned. And then again, embers barely showing. But then he says, proof of life in the shadows. Now that's interesting. If you're talking about faith, the embers being faith, proof of life in the shadows. Well, life in the shadows sounds to me like angels and demons. Calling back to Isle of Flightless Birds, where it says, we walk around or they fly around while we are walking and mold our emotions just to please them. It's like, the spiritual warfare is going on all around us. This life in the shadows. There's something that's out of your sight. You can't see it, but it's there. And then, the faith being the proof of that. This reminds me of something that Paul said, and it's somewhere in the New Testament. I don't know where, but he says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for. And there's a lyric from a song by DC Talk on the Jesus Freak album that puts it more concisely. Faith is the evidence of things unseen. It's like you have that faith that survives everything that gets thrown at you, and that is proof that there is something there. There's something real that you're holding on to. So I like that idea that, it's glowing, embers barely showing, proof of life in the shadows. Yeah, I like that. But then it continues and he says, dancing on my plans. And that's interesting. It's like, again, it calls back to Isle of Flightless Birds, talking about, this spiritual warfare affects our lives in ways that we don't really understand. And, we have our plans, but then, they're dancing on our plans. So, yeah, I like that. I've already talked about the first half of the second verse. Then the second half of the second verse. It's only time before they show me why no one ever comes back with details from beyond. Of course, with my interpretation of this song, again, there are other interpretations that are just as valid, but with my interpretation of this song, of course, he's talking about death, and it's only a matter of time before I see what it is, why it is that people don't, because there are people who have come back from death, but, having any details, like reliable details, it hasn't happened. No one ever comes back with details from beyond. Anyway, moving on. In time I will leave the city, for now I will stay alive. Again, talking about leaving. No one ever comes back with details from beyond. Leaving the city, talking about death. For now I will stay alive. Anyway, final verse. Last year I needed change of pace. Couldn't take the pace of change, moving hastily. So this album came out in 18, so last year would have been 17. And there was a lot of change of pace in 2017. Things got kind of crazy that year. Things have really been crazy ever since 2016, to be honest. It's just getting crazier and crazier, but yeah, he says, I needed change of pace, couldn't take the pace of change, moving hastily. But this year, though I'm far from home, in trench I'm not alone. These faces facing me, they know what I mean. and it feels like he's talking about the fans there, and so that's kind of nice. And anyway, that's enough of my breakdown of Leave the City. I think you can tell I'm gonna say this is S tier. And yeah, so let's move on from that. Is there a scratch? There's already a scratch. Good grief. The thing is busted, it's scratched, and I just opened it up for the first time after I bought it like 3 years ago. Oh well. That's fine. Okay. Next up, Scaled and Icy. One of their most they're for sure their most controversial album, hated by a lot of the fans, particularly the ones that identify themselves as the Skeleton Clique. I love this album. It's my third favorite. Right after the first album. So, just getting that out of the way. Hate on me in the comments if you want to. This album, it's a great album. Anyway. Good Day is a good way to start the album. It really sets the tone. They always really they set the tone well for their albums with the first tracks. And Good Day, yeah, it's like it's a contradiction because of how happy it sounds, but the lyrics are so down. Like he says, lost my job, my wife and child, homie just sued me, shoot my life and shoot him up style. And then he says, I know it's hard to believe me, it's a good day. It's like, dude, it doesn't sound like a good day, I tell you what. Yeah, it's a good song. I put that in A tier. It's a good A tier song. Next up is Choker, which was, I think, the first single. And then, yeah, Choker is for me, honestly, Choker is B tier. No. I'll put it in A tier. Low A tier. Choker. Particularly for the bridge because it's so singable. Like for me, if a song is singable, then it just makes it that much more fun. I like it even more. But anyway, moving on from Choker to Shy Away. Shy Away is my number one. Oh, what did somebody said? El mejor album is Trench. The best, yes, but my personal favorite, no, it's my, what did I say, fourth favorite, Trench. But I think musically speaking, it's a masterpiece. It's fair to say that Trench is the best album. Yeah, I'm fine with that. But talking about Shy Away, again, favorite song off of this album. Again, very fun to sing with, especially that when I get home, boy, you better not be there. I remember I went I've been to two 21 Pilots live shows. First one was the Icy tour, or was it the Takeover tour, and then the Icy tour? But anyway, they were both in this era, the Scaled and Icy era. And the first time when I got to that part of the song, I put all of my energy into it, and like they didn't they didn't call any attention to that moment. So I was like the only one in my section that was just screaming, and everybody turned and looked at me. Well, then the second show that I went to, they put emphasis on that moment, so it felt more satisfying to release. Boy, you better not be there. You're long gone. Anyway, moving on from, I think, yeah, that's obviously S tier for me. And moving on from that to The Outside. I really like The Outside. Um, I'm on the outside in the summer heat. You can pay the cover charge, I'm in the street. Little did they know that they can't touch me. I'm vibing. It's a good vibe. It's an A tier song for me. Good, good fun. And next up is Saturday, which I think is why this album was so polarizing and so controversial among the fans. Because Saturday, a lot of people were like, oh, this is just a soulless pop song. It's just meant to be a summer single. How I think people felt betrayed. And there was this whole argument that, oh, it's intentionally bad. Well, no, it's not a bad song. It's just good, clean fun. And then to say that it's intentionally bad, I feel is just disrespectful to the artist. And I like Saturday. It's not my expectation of the Clancy tour. I have already got a ticket, I think, for September, a September show in Raleigh. My expectation is that it's going to be a great show, as always. I'm looking forward to the aesthetic of it, with with that, the red and the yellow, like the Inferno aesthetic that they've got going on. I think it's going to be a great show. It's going to be energetic. There's definitely going to be pyrotechnics. I mean, with it being like they're burning down the city, they're burning Dima down. They're going to take it to the ground, the torchbearers. And yeah, that's what I expect out of the Clancy tour. I don't have, a lot of expectations, but if I was to say anything, that's all I got to say, and it might not be much to say. just to say that it's going to be a great show. I mean, that's kind of a given with this band. They always put on a great show. But yeah, with Saturday, I think that a lot of people they let that set the tone for the album too much. And, they said, oh, it's too bright, it's too pop, it's too mainstream. And you got to consider the time that this album came out. It was 21, right? Like, this was right after the global pandemic. Like, things were nuts in 21, I was in a very tumultuous time in my life with a job that was just wearing my mental health down. I even had like a nervous breakdown at work, and I got a shingles outbreak, which I still have a scar on my nose from a stress-induced shingles outbreak. And this album was what I listened to on repeat and during those times. And it was great because, it was just good old fun. It was good, bright. It was brighter than, Trench. If they had come out with something as dark as Trench in 21, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. But anyway, Saturday, it's a good A tier song, It's not S tier, but I like it a lot. And then Never Take It. So when I went to pick up Clancy at FYE last week, the cashier was like, hey, is that any good? I haven't listened to it yet. And I said, oh yeah, it's really good. And he said, oh yeah, the last thing I listened to them was Icy Hot. And I was like, oh, you mean Scaled and Icy? And he said, yeah, I really like that song. Yeah, We're Never Gonna Take It. And I was like, yeah, I love that song. And it was just funny to me because it's like, here I am, somebody who's, like obsessed with this band. You know, it's my favorite band of all time. I love their music. I play it on repeat. And then, you know, I'm talking to a guy who is just normal. He just has like a normal interest in the band. He's not, you know, autistically interested in it like I am. Um, so it was, you know, that was fun. But Never Take It is also this album is so polarizing and controversial. But Never Take It was, a lot of people say it's too political, and then other people say it's not political enough. It's like, you know, like, well, which one is it? Is it that, you know, they shouldn't have mentioned politics at all? Or is it that if they're going to mention politics, then they have to clearly pick one side? And to me, it seems like Never Take It is very clearly talking about how the media is constantly stoking controversy. They want us to be divided. Like, it's not, you know, people are saying, oh, they need to pick a side. Well, they're talking about left versus right. Never Take It is exactly against that whole idea of taking a side, left versus right. It's really about the people versus the elite. The Bandito tour in 2019. No, I did not. I did. The first show that I went to was in 21. So no, I was not. I didn't get to experience the Trench era of live shows. Did you experience that? What was that like? I would be interested if you got to be a part of that. While I'm waiting for an answer there, I will keep talking about Never Take It. So yeah, I really like the lyrics of Never Take It. You know, talking about now that they know information is just a currency and nothing more. Keep the truth in quotations because they keep lying through their fake teeth. And then there's that line about why cure disease of confusion when you're the treatment facility. You know, there's that whole conspiracy theory about, and when I say conspiracy theory, I really just mean it's a theory about a conspiracy. I don't mean like, you know, that I'm going to get sidetracked, but conspiracy theory is a term created by the CIA to discount people that are disagreeing with official narratives. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But there's this conspiracy theory that there is a cure for like various diseases like cancer or AIDS or, you know, this, that, and the third. And Big Pharma is suppressing it and, you know, keeping that hidden away and, you know, sort of poo-pooing any research into it. You're from Mexico and you didn't go to the Bandito tour, but this year you're going to fulfill a dream and you're going to be able to go to the Clancy tour. That's right. They're going to Central and South America this time. And I think this is the first time that they're doing that. So I think that's really cool. And I hope that you have a great time at the show. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm glad you're going to get to finally experience that. Because, like I said, they always put on a great show. And I'll be interested to see what they do different this time, because the two that I went to were in the same era. It was, you know, they were different tours, but they were in the same era, and so there was a lot of similarity between the two shows. Kind of the same formula, same structure. Not exactly the same set list, but yeah, anyway. So, Never Take It. I'm going to move on because I've been talking about that for a good long while. It's an A tier song, bordering on S tier. I really like how, you know, like I talked about with Lane Boy, they say, you know, we're not going to stay in our lane. We're not going to be cornered into something, you know, into staying in, one particular sound. So they go from Trench, which is really dark and atmospheric, and they go from that to Scaled and Icy, which is, bright colors, pastels, and, they have Saturday, which is very pop, and then they have Never Take It, which is like, feels like classic rock. Anyway, then, Mulberry Street. This is just a good, happy, it is definitely a happy song. So I understand why people say that this album just kind of feels pretty happy. Because Mulberry Street is very like, although again, even with Mulberry Street, there is that touch of darkness with the lyrics where he says, everyone realize on synthetic highs, they find someone to prescribe. Talking about how doctors will hand out SSRIs like candy, keeping people on these drugs, these happy pills, constantly giving them happy pills. And then he says, keep your bliss, there's nothing wrong with this. Keep your pills, save your breath, and don't ever forget. Move out of our way, we're moving sideways. Sideways, I kind of imagine that as like sort of moving like this, just sort of enjoying the vibe, and I like that idea of keep your pills, keep your bliss. There's nothing wrong with this. You can have the weekends, we will live between them. That lyric sort of fits into this idea of, we don't want the happy pills. We want to experience, we want to feel, we want that full range of emotions. And of course, there are people who need medication. I myself am on a medication. But, some people don't need it, and they need to experience, there's nothing wrong with negative emotions. It's okay to be sad, maybe even okay to be depressed sometimes, I don't know. Yeah. Mulberry Street is a good A-tier song. Moving on from that to Formidable. Another one of their love songs. Not one of my favorites of their love songs. Kind of like Smithereens. But it's a good song. No particularly strong feelings on Formidable. I put it in maybe even C tier. I don't know. Let's say B tier. Yeah, I'll go with B tier for Formidable. Next up is Bounce, Bounce, Bounce Man. Come to the house, man. All I'm old, lay, Bounce, 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 man. A lot of people don't like this song. They say it's a skip because it's so repetitive. I personally have fun with Bounce Man. You should bounce, 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 man. Come to the house, man. It's an interesting storytelling song. It's good. It's gonna be B tier. B for Bounce. Next up is No Chances. And yeah, the last two tracks on this album really break away from the supposedly bright and happy vibe. Even though if you listen to a lot of the songs on Trench, they could definitely fit with the vibe of Scaled and Icy, but I guess we're not ready for that conversation. No Chances, I like the chanting part. It feels like it's kind of got a menacing sound about it. No Chances, kind of the going from the verses where they're saying like, they're trying to convince him to come back. Again, this falls into the lore. it's kind of storytelling about the bishops trying to get him back into Dima. And so No Chances is trying to, in the verse, they're trying to win him over. But then in the chorus, it's like, we come for you, no chances. It's like, I like that, the conflicting energies in this song. And I would say No Chances is going to go in B tier. Next up is Redecorate. And this is a really powerful song. I'm going to open up. Do I want to open up Scaled and Icy? No, I think I can remember the lyrics to Redecorate. So let's see. The first verse of Redecorate, it goes. Oh, it's talking about flat on his back, but he still heard the directive. Orders from the corner where that shadow always lived. Never asked permission, he just hopes that they'd forgive. It's talking about this guy who is living. Let me see, can I remember the first line of Redecorate? I don't remember. But, the first verse is about a guy who's miserable and he tries everything, but, he's constantly hearing that call. It says, orders from that corner where the shadow. He still heard the directive. Orders from that corner where that shadow always lived. Never asked permission, he just hoped that they'd forgive. So the shadow living in the corner reminds me of a demon. Again, proof of life in the shadows. And talking about the demon sat there waiting on her porch from the first album. Anyway, second verse, I remember it better. Blankets over mirrors, she tends to like it. She's not afraid of her reflection, but of what she might see behind it. She had plans to change her name, just not the traditional way. It's talking about this lady is thinking about ending it all. And just not the traditional way. How does it continue from there? Just not the traditional way. Anyway, I forget what the very next line is, but I remember it goes, then one night she got cold with no blankets on her bed, so she ripped him off the mirror, stepped back, and she said, I don't want to go like this. At least let me clean my room. I like this, I like the chorus here. Because it's talking about, these people are, the first guy is in the depths of despair. The second lady, she's thinking about ending it all. These people are living like they're dead already. Which is, it's so dark. And it's like, then in the chorus, they're saying, I don't want to go like this. At least let me clean my room. Because the last thing I want to do is make my people make decisions wondering what to do. Should they keep it on display or redecorate? It's like you hear these stories about people who have lost their children, like, the kid goes missing or their kid dies, and then they never touch the kid's room. It's like they're trying to hold on, they can't let go. They have to, it's like deep down inside they're just wishing that their kid would walk through that door and then they can say, oh, look, your room is just exactly the way you left it. like, oh man, I'm gonna get choked up thinking about it. Just, yeah, and and then with that being the chorus, it's like, these people are thinking, I'm gonna end it all, but I have to clean my room first. I have to clear out, I have to clear everything out so that people don't have to, you know, and yeah, Redecorate is such a powerful song, and it can hit you in the feels, it can hit you right in the heart, depending on the mood that you're in when you listen to it. Redecorate is S tier. And that brings us to the end of Scaled and Dicey, and now we come to my favorite album. Clancy. I'm hiding the price tag because, as usual, I haven't opened it yet because my CD player doesn't work. But Clancy, favorite album. Love this album. It's so good. I've never related to an album so hard. Like, God, it's so good. It feels so personal. Like, to me, I mean, like I said, I've never related to an album so hard. We're going to start off with Overcompensate. Probably the track that I relate to the least. Overcompensate, as usual, sets the tone for the album really good. And I've heard a lot of people say that this album, again, not cohesive. It doesn't sound like Trench. It wasn't Trench 2 like they promised it would be. Honestly, it really is Trench 2. Like, there are a lot, but it also feels like it's a sequel to all their previous works since Vessel. Like, this album, it feels like you can hear influences from each of their previous albums throughout this. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. We'll start off with Overcompensate. It's a good song. I put it in A tier for Josh Dunn's drumming in this track is it's very technically advanced, from what I've heard from drummers, and when you pay attention you can kind of hear that it's very technically advanced. So Overcompensate goes in A tier just for that. There's not a lot to chew on lyrically because it's pretty lore heavy. But anyway, I'll move on from Overcompensate. Next Semester. Man, this is one that, again, it sounds so different from what the lyrics are. Like, it's got, again, they're changing lanes. They go from Overcompensate, which sounds very Trench, right into Next Semester, which is like, it just sounds like a punk rock hit from like the 90s, you know? It's punk rock, is how I would describe it. But then the lyrics describing like somebody trying to end it all by walking out into traffic at night, and then he hears, "Hey kid, get out of the road," and that's what saves his life. And then this theme really goes throughout this entire album. This song gives hope. Because it's like, you know what, you can't change what happened, you can't change what you've done. Start fresh next semester. Start fresh with the new year. And yeah, man. Oh, and that transition at the end, when, it builds up to a climax, and then it starts building again, and you're like, oh, are we going to get an even more energy release, at the and then they build up and they build up, and then it just drops. And it's just such a smooth transition into just acoustic, just the ukulele, and it makes you like focus in. It's like you're locked in now. And it gives me chills every time I hear that transition. It's like, hang on. Forget all of the energy. Just listen in, lock into these lyrics. Start fresh with the new year. Can't change what you've done. Start fresh next semester. So good. S tier. I love next semester. And then Backslide is really good. Again, very relatable. And it's kind of sad right after next semester. It's like next semester is saying, you know what, start fresh. And then backslide is like, you know what, I'm falling back into those old patterns. And there's a line in here that really triggered a lot of people who like Scaled and Icy. He says, kind of wishing that I know, how does it go? Bad place on $100 base. Kind of wishing that I never did Saturday. And then it starts like there's this conversational bit where the blurry face voice is layered. And it says, is that a stain? You should change. Are you doing good? Did you solve all of your problems? And I've heard that described as, it's the pressure from social media and from the fans. They're saying, is that a stain? They're being critical. They're saying, oh, Saturday, that's a stain. You should change. You should do what we want. And then they go back to, are you doing good? Did you solve all of your problems? It's like they're pretending to care, but they're really just being parasites. Am I being too harsh? Maybe. But the way that I interpreted it also was maybe, since there's that blurry face voice, maybe it's him talking to himself saying, you know what? Now I don't like this song that I made. I don't like it so much anymore. So I'll change lanes. They weren't going to stay in their lane, boy. They go where they want to. And then Backslide, I love the chorus where he says, I'll take anything you have. Oh wait, what was it? No, it's reach my hand above the tide. Wait. Where am I? Strength enough for one more time. Reach my hand above the tide. I'll take anything you have. Like, at those lines, I just want to raise my hand. I just want to punch a hole in the roof of my car. It's like, raise my hand above the tide, reaching out. It makes me think of when Jesus was walking on water, and Peter said, if that's really you, Lord, then call me out on the water with you. And Jesus said, all right, come on out. And Peter hops out of the boat and walks across the water to Jesus. But then as he's walking, he's like, hang on. He starts looking around. He's like, wait, this shouldn't be possible. Why am I walking on water? And just immediately like that, he sinks like a rock. And then he's fighting because it's in the middle of a storm, and he's fighting, and he claws his way to the surface of the water, and he reaches out his hand and he says, Lord, help me. And the shortest prayer in all of the Bible, so I've heard. He says, all he says is, Lord, help me. He acknowledges the lordship of Christ and that Christ can save him. And Jesus catches him, pulls him up, drags him back to the boat, and he says, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? Which is very interesting. But yeah, so that's what I think of when he says, strength enough for one more time, reach my hand above the tide. I'll take anything you have. If you could throw me a line, I should have loved you better. Do you think that now's the time you should let go? And man, it goes back to the struggles with faith At least that's how I interpret it. You know, I don't want to backslide to where I started from. Just the theme of falling back in old patterns. So backslide. I'm gonna have to give it S tier. I feel like I might be very generous with S tier on this album. But next is Midwest Indigo, and Midwest Indigo, not S tier. Just gonna go ahead and say that. But it's a very good song. I really like it. I like the way that it sounds. It sounds inspired by maybe Vessel, Scaled and Icy a little bit. I'm not sure. But Midwest Indigo is a really good song. I'll say A tier. Yeah, that feels right. Next up is Routines in the Night, which is a fan favorite. A lot of people love this song. And I'm not saying that I don't love this song, but it's not my favorite off this album. It's a really good song, though. And it goes, you know, it has this theme of, you know, it also has the theme of backsliding. You know, where he says, recurring, keeps coming around, REM cycle, skip night, psycho trip. It's reassuring, you keep coming around, it's tough to find good company. Reoccurring days, blurring, I'm still learning what this is. You know, that reoccurring, reassuring, you keep coming around, recurring. Yeah. Talking about cycles, you know, falling back in old patterns, you know, at nighttime when he should be asleep, when everybody else is asleep, he's still just walking around in the halls of his mind, and they're, you know, the doors that are spray painted in white that say "stay out" or "keep out" or whatever it says. Don't dead open inside. Um, Sorry, I lost my thought for a second there. Oh yeah, the doors that are spray painted that say "stay away." It's like those are the thoughts that he knows not to go down that path because it's too dark. So Routines in the Night, I'm gonna put it in A tier. Next up is Vignette, my favorite track on this album. Definitely my favorite track on this album. Very singable. This whole album is so singable. And like I said, the more singable it is, the more I like it. You know, that just bumps it up. I rate highly for singability. And Vignette is one that you can just belt it out. You know, clinging to promises, fighting off the vignette. Yeah, just the energy I can put into that. Even if I sound like crap, man, I love it. Tunnels cave, visions fade, swallowed by the vignette. And Tyler Joseph said that his interpretation of this song is about drug addiction. So, you know, going back into relapse, backsliding. Yeah, S tier. Definitely S tier. My favorite track off this album. Next up is The Craving. So there's Jenna's version and there's the single version. Now, the single version is more instruments, so it's more fun to listen to just as like a radio hit. And I've heard it on the radio several times. Then Jenna's version is just the ukulele, and it feels very personal. I'm going to put the single version, I'm going to put them both in A tier actually. The Craving, I think, is my favorite, or my second favorite of their love songs. Tear in My Heart has to be the favorite. But The Craving, again, this whole album being so relatable to me. The Craving, this is going to be very personal for me, but the way that he describes experiencing love for someone as a craving, I relate to that very strongly because my fiance and I, we have always lived about 500 miles apart from each other. So we have, I think it's not even been 10 times that we've seen each other. It might have been. Maybe going on 10. But yeah, like, being 500 miles apart for the past 5 years, it takes a toll, and I crave her presence, and I crave to know her better, and to grow closer and to be a better man. And I just hate to put this on her, but I swear that I will give more than I take away. Yeah, man. I love that song. You know what? I'm gonna bump that up to S tier. I'm gonna bump Jenna's version up to S tier, and the single version is gonna stay at A tier. Might be controversial, but yeah, that's just how I feel. Next up is Lavish, and this is just a fun song, man. Now, I have my own personal theory about Lavish, which is probably wrong, but we'll wait till it's proven wrong. So my theory is that Lavish is sort of a teaser for what the next story is going to be. Because after the Dima Clancy story ends, what's next? Well, they have said that they're working on another story. So, at least that's what I heard. I heard that they said that they're working on another story. But at the beginning of the song, it says, "Welcome to the new way of living. It's just the beginning of Lavish," which feels to me like this is foreshadowing. They're saying, okay, this is just the beginning. We're telling you what the next storyline is about. And then it starts talking about, lavish from the floor to the ceiling. Welcome to the style you haven't seen in a while. It's lavish. Try your best to look like this is not your first time. You're fighting for the front row, that's a nice try. You're looking real nice, smelling like worth. Walk in like you deserve it. And if your feet are hurting, then that's when you know you brought the right equipment to put on a show. Let it flow, let it show, shine. Let it show, let it flow, shine. Welcome to the new way of living. It's such a fun song to sing with. And then there's that really bizarre line in the second verse. The second verse goes, "Got that penny loafer squeak, cross linoleum, big flex complex Napoleon. I say whatever and whenever that I want, sip a Capri Sun like it's Dom Perignon. I'm talking tough happily with someone in front of me, room on the payroll, everyone can live comfortably. I'm coming in hot, shot hypocrisy, NDAs for the folks to talk to me. So tell your friends to follow bots anonymous. Keep it cool, keep the mood androgynous. I see your problem is your proctologist got both hands on your shoulder while you're bottomless." God, that line still makes me laugh. I remember on the Reddit, like, everybody was just taken out, like, everybody was so taken out by a butt sex joke from Tyler Joseph. "Hello, I am Clancy. How do you do? Welcome to the stream. I am on Lavish right now, which, like I said, just a very fun song, very light. But yeah, so I think that this is my personal theory, and it's, like I said, probably wrong, but I think Lavish is a teaser for what the next storyline is going to be, because he says it's just the beginning of Lavish. And so I think, The Dima Clancy, I'm in the dark. It's because I'm in my car. I'm sitting in my car. I can, yeah. Sorry, there's not much light. There's not much I can do about the there is that. I feel like that's not better. But this is, I mean, this is, you can pretty much put it on as background sound because there's not a lot going on visually. It's just my face. It's just my ugly mug. The focus is I'm doing a ranking on all of these songs. I've never seen someone stream from their car. Yeah, man. It's hot out here, I'll tell you that much. I'm in North Carolina, it's July. But the first part, I did part 1 of this. It was like 2 in the afternoon. I was dying. Like, you can go back and watch that stream. I was dying. So I decided to do part 2 at night. So I can actually get through all these songs. Oh yeah, I was talking about my lavish theory. So with the Dima Clancy storyline, it goes through all these themes of like mental health and struggles with faith, and it makes sense that, that's what he would be talking about. Because those were the struggles that he had when he started this storyline. But now, it's been like 10 years since Blurryface popped off. So they've been famous for like a decade now. So it makes sense that the next storyline would be about Lavish and the temptations of pride and ego and luxury and all this stuff, and the social pressures, and from the fans. There are these people who idolize these guys, Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn, like just the level of admiration that the fans, particularly those who identify as part of the Skeleton Clique. So that's my theory. And again, it's probably wrong, but I think that Lavish is going to be the next storyline. So anyway, Lavish, I'm going to put it in A tier. It's just such a fun song. It's not quite S tier, but it's a really fun song. It feels like it's Clancy's 10 out of 10. Dude, I feel the exact same way. It's my favorite album. It's my favorite album from this band. Maybe even my favorite album of all time. It's definitely up there. You said you can't wait to see him live. Yeah, I'm gonna see him live. I think I've got a ticket for the Raleigh show, so I think that's in September. Yeah, I'm gonna move on from Lavish, and we're gonna talk about Navigating. So Navigating is a fan favorite. It's not one of my favorites. I'm not saying I don't like it, but music video for Lavish is interesting. Wasn't what I was expecting, but I love it. You're gonna see in Dallas? That's cool, man. Out there in Texas. The promised land. Yeah. I saw somebody say about Lavish that it was like they said they couldn't decide if they wanted a music video or a lyric video, so they just, which is kind of funny because that's true. I mean, I didn't have any expectations because I'm not a Leak listener. Navigating is a vibe. It is a vibe. But I understand why Tyler Joseph said it's his least favorite of the album. I would say it's probably my least favorite of the album, but it's still really good. It's just that every other song on the album is even better. So the Navigating is still like A tier, maybe low A tier, maybe B tier. Yeah, I'll stick it in B tier because I can't put everything on this album in A and S tier. I can't do that. So yeah, I'll put Navigating in B tier, but leaning towards A tier. Next is Snap Back. And I've seen this one get kind of overlooked by people on the Reddit. personally, Snapback's one of my favorites. Like, it follows this theme of this album where, that starts with backslide, and then goes into vignette with it talking about relapse, swallowed by the vignette. You just love how this album is bam in your face. It's Clancy, Trench, Scaled, and Icy. Everything else for me. Could never get into Self-Titled? Really? Self-Titled, the first album, was my favorite album until Clancy came out. And that's because I went to that album when I was at a really dark time. I tried to get into it when I was a kid, when I first got into the band, right before Blurry Face came out, about a year before Blurry Face came out. And I wasn't really into it because musically it doesn't sound highly produced, It sounds very indie, like you can just tell from the sound of it that it's, these guys are not real experienced. They haven't done this much. But when I went back to that album in 22, after I had grown up, and I was at a tumultuous time in my life, on the heels of 21, which was also a tumultuous time, and I was just in a dark place. And going back to that first album, and it really helped me experience my faith in Christ in a new way. Like, because the things that he talks about on that album, he's never like in your face like Jesus. This is a song about Jesus, and I really appreciate that because it makes you chew on it a little more to figure out what he's talking about. And so, the ideas that he was presenting about, it's okay to question God and, put him to the test. It was very powerful for me. And that was my favorite album. Now it's my second favorite album since Clancy came out. But yeah, I mean, if you're just not into it, that's okay, But that's just my personal experience with that album. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Snapback. So it follows this theme of, falling back into old patterns, old habits. It's like, if I'm going to snap next, then I've got to snap back. It's like I'm about to fail, gonna lose the lead running from a thing that I kicked in 17. Is it even right to keep track? If I'm going to snap next, I've got to snap back. I interpret that as, if I'm about to break, if I'm about to lose, I need to get back to, I need to go back to what it was that saved me, last time. And so I like the bridge where he says, I've been praying for my elasticity to return to the way that it was. I've been praying for my elasticity to return to the way that it was. Again, Snapback is very singable. Everything on this album is singable, and that's a huge part of why it's my favorite album, but also because all of these songs are so relatable to me. So Snapback, I'm gonna say A tier. Definitely A tier. Next up is Oldie Station, and man, this one is such a vibe. It feels like Blurry Face, And he said, I remember on a live stream, he said, he was talking about this song. For me, when I heard Next Semester, I was like, damn, this song is mine now. Yep, Next Semester, great song. But Oldie Station is like, again, I keep saying this, very singable. Your favorite song was on the oldie station. Push on through. And that part of the song has come close to bringing me to tears because he's saying, again, this theme throughout this album of falling back in old habits, it's very dark. But he said on the live stream about this song, he said, "You guys deserve to know how I've been doing. And if Oldie Station is how I've been doing, then that gives hope, just like next semester does. That, he says, all the darkness is coming upon you. Just push on through, you know? You're strong enough, you can do it." And that makes me think of, people. I've seen this online a lot where people will say, they'll put in the comments of a YouTube channel, they'll say, "Oh man, your content saved my life." And it's like, this guy's playing Grand Theft Auto and he's just making fun videos. That didn't save your life. This content creator didn't, they're not the ones that did the work. You're the one who pushed through. And this is just something that you were watching at the time. They gave you some entertainment, but you're the one who kept going. It's not that they kept you going. You're the one that kept going. So yeah, I like the idea of push on through. And then the part where it has come close to choking me up is where he says, "You're in the crowd at her first dance recital." Because I think about, I want to be a father someday. I want to have my own kids. And, thinking about, my future kids and all the things that I'm going to get to. I think you get what I'm saying. It's just, yeah. I love that song, Oldie Station. And then I'm going to move on to, at the risk, oh wait, did I say Oldie Station is A tier? The lyrics to that song also got me. Yeah. At the Risk of Feeling Dumb, I'm glad you mentioned that because that is the next song. At the Risk of Feeling Dumb, check in. It's not worth the risk of losing a friend, even if they say. I love this song, man. So I have a. Do I want to talk about that? It's kind of personal, but I had a near-death experience with this album. Or I was listening to this album while I had a near-death experience. So let me get that straight. But yeah, I wound up kind of blacked out in a delirious state, swimming in a lake, in the middle of a lake, in the middle of the day in the summer, which, yeah, I could have died out there, but I had a life vest on, so, I was able to keep my head above the tide. But yeah, what got me to that place, to that dark place was I just wasn't reaching out to people enough, and people weren't reaching out to me enough. And so, at the risk of feeling dumb, again, this album being so relatable to me, well, that song is very relatable to a very specific event in my life that happened like 2 days after the album came out. Actually, or let me see, 3 days, two and a half days. I don't know, 2 days. We'll go with that. But yeah, and it's a good thing that I didn't have Vignette in my mind. Swallowed by the Vignette, maybe I would have sank. But actually, the song that I had in my mind was the next song, Paladin Straight. But At the Risk of Feeling Dumb is definitely an A tier song. It's in the same vein as Neon Gravestones, talking about a very serious thing, admonishing people. Um, yeah, anyway, what is that? Chat felt. I heard that song and thought, I wish my friends would just say hi first instead of me doing it. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's kind of how I felt. And I talked to my people, and I was like, yeah, I recognize that I should reach out more, and I'm going to try to do that, but I also need people to reach out to me, check in on me, just make sure I'm doing okay, push a little bit, don't just say, hey, how you doing? Because I'm going to say I'm fine, right? No, push a little bit past that, I'm fine. Ask me how I'm really doing, I don't know. And maybe I shouldn't be, maybe I shouldn't have such expectations of people that, they need to cater to my emotional needs. But I also I want to be able to, I want to be able to have that with them too, where I can kind of push a little bit. I don't know. I'm getting into very personal stuff now that I don't necessarily want to get into. But yeah, At the Risk of Feeling Dumb, I'm going to put it up there with Neon Gravestones in S tier because it talks about something very important. And then next up is Paladin Straight. This is the song that I had in my mind when I was swimming in a delirious state. And so I was thinking I would swim the Paladin Straight without any flotation. Just a glimpse of visual aid, a view on the other shoreline. So I was thinking about swimming, which is good. I wasn't thinking about, getting swallowed by the vignette. And this song I think is A tier for me. But I'll tell you what, man, the second time the chorus comes around and it gets that little bounce in it, I just start moving. Like I make that bounce, that little bit of bounce in that second iteration of the chorus just makes me move. I would swim the Paladin Straight, do 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 do, without any flotation. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. There's just something that he adds into the guitar, the strumming pattern, that yeah, really good. So that brings us to the end of Clancy. Now that doesn't bring us to the end of all the songs that I want to put on this tier list. So we have the covers. For me with this album, I'm like, forget the lore for a second and just listen to the damned song, This Sheesh is Deep. Yeah, I've never been super into the lore. I got into the lore right before Clancy actually. So I actually I was paying a little bit more attention to the lore with this album than before. But I have always sorry, there's bugs flying against my window. But what I have always liked most about this band is the lyrical depth. There's a lot to chew on. There's a lot to think about. And this live stream is a testament to that. We're going on 2 hours, and a lot of it has just been me just going through my thoughts of all these songs. You were never into the lore until Clancy came out? Yeah. Yeah. I like the storyline, and I like the things that it represents, and it ties into all the themes, like there are themes that run throughout an album, and then there are even themes that span like the entire discography. Like even going back to the first album, the whole idea of struggling with your faith, Going back to Vessel, themes of, I can't sleep. Well, then there's Routines in the Night where he can't sleep. He's walking through the halls of his mind. Yeah, so the next songs that I'm gonna put on this tier list are the covers. So Cancer, Can't Help Falling in Love, Jar of Hearts. So Cancer, I'm gonna put in A tier. Cancer is the best. The 21 Pilots cover of Cancer is the best version of Cancer. Just gonna say that. I was never really into the My Chemical Romance version, even though it's the original. Just was never into that band, to be honest. I'm not familiar with a lot of their work actually, so it's probably not fair for me to say that I am not a fan, or that I'm not fond of it. But yeah, I really like the vibe of the 21 Pilots cover of Cancer. Ever since hearing their cover, I was like, when's the collab? Yeah, that would be interesting. I know that 21 Pilots has collaborated with other bands like Mute Math and Switchfoot. And there was another that I heard. There was some gospel artist that they collaborated with. Can't think of who, but yeah, My Chemical Reacting. Okay, am I still live? Yes, I'm still here. Okay, good. But yeah, moving on from Cancer, that's A tier. Can't Help Falling in Love is, it's a B tier. It's an average cover of that song. It's a really good song though. Yeah, they didn't do anything particularly special with it, but it's such a good song that you, as long as you don't mess it up, then it's going to be a good cover. Jar of Hearts, S tier. It's actually their cover of Jar of Hearts is one of my favorite songs by this band. Such an interesting creative choice for him to put auto tune on his voice, like such a heavy auto tune too. Because if you've ever heard Tyler Joseph live, you know that he never needs auto tune. Like his vocals are amazing, but yet he puts. I saw somebody in the comments say nobody else could sound so raw and emotional through such a heavy, like robotic sounding auto tune. And I was like, that's absolutely true. That encapsulates my thoughts about that perfectly. Like, it was an interesting creative choice, and I really like it. And just the energy of that song, that cover, it's really good. And it's again very singable. So of course I'm gonna love it. Like, what's the moment that's got all that energy in it? Who do you think you are? Running around leaving scars, collecting your jar of hearts, tearing love apart. You're gonna catch a cold from the ice inside your soul. Don't come back for me. Don't come back at all. And then the drums kick in, and it just, yeah, I'm just like beating my steering wheel, singing that in my car on the way to work, man. Very fun. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Next up is Level of Concern. And this came out between, it came out just before the singles for Scaled and Icy, I think. Or no, it came out actually like a year before that, because Scaled and Icy didn't come out until 21. And Level of Concern was made in it came out in like April of 20, I think. and it was really good. It was perfectly timed, you know, because it's a pandemic song. He even mentions pandemic. Would you be my little quarantine, or is this the way it ends? You know, he's talking about how hard things were for families at that time. You know, being quarantined, everybody's stuck in their houses. You know, everybody's terrified of the virus, and you know, it was a hard time. Level of concern, solid A tier, solid A tier. Yeah. And then Heathens, another outside of the albums, but definitely very important. Huge hit. It was a huge hit. Almost up there with like Stressed Out and Ride. All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Um, that's gonna be S tier. It's a very energetic song. I really like the energy in Heathens. And then, what is this? CSTY. I wrote down this abbreviation. See, I've just got a list. I have a list in my notebook that I wrote all of these song names on, and I have CSTY. Oh, yeah. Christmas Saves the Year. Their Christmas song. Um, I mean, it's pretty good because it's hard to do an original Christmas song these days. So I'm gonna put it in like it's hard to say should I put it in A tier because it's so hard to make a good Christmas song these days, or should I put it in B tier because compared to the older stuff it's kind of middling. I don't know. I'll leave that sort of indecisive. It's between A and B tier because it's a Christmas song, you know. It's good and it's fun. Christmas Saves the Year. But anyway, that's the end of all the songs that I have to put a ranking on, I guess. Um, it's a vibe. I think this is the only holiday song we have by him. Yeah. You know what? Speaking of holiday songs, there aren't enough Arbor Day songs. I'll tell you what. We need more songs about Arbor Day. I think we need more Columbus Day songs and Thanksgiving songs, you know? Those holidays don't get enough love. I think the vernal equinox deserves some songs. You know, where's my vernal equinox homies at? You know? You've seen people talk about that on Thanksgiving songs. Are there anything there's gotta be Thanksgiving songs. There's Independence Day songs. Um Sorry, I've got to replace all the water that I'm sweating out. Because even at night, it is hot in my car. Um, Imagine that a song about Thanksgiving, that'd be interesting. It would, I think it would, you could definitely do a really good Thanksgiving song. I mean, it would just be a song about being thankful, you know? Being grateful for, um, like I was at church last week and they were talking about, you know, these missionaries that go out to just horribly impoverished um, these horribly impoverished countries like Haiti. And I've been to Haiti and I've seen it firsthand because I stayed with a middle class family, and their middle class families live in very rough conditions. Like their upper class lives in a life that we would consider middle class. Is what their lifestyle is like. Um, but yeah, and you go to these impoverished countries, and these people are so grateful for what little they have. And so, I think a Thanksgiving song that taps into that, putting things into perspective and being thankful for what we have, as crazy as things have gotten these days, we're still very blessed. And I'm not just saying, we as Americans, even though I am American, I'm talking about, you think about throughout all of human history, all that humanity has survived. And, it makes me grateful for, my ancestors that, you know, it's like neon gravestones, um, find your grandparents or someone of age, pay some respect for the path that they paved, to life they were dedicated, and that should be celebrated. Maybe Neon Gravestones is a Thanksgiving song. No, but yeah. What about like? I mean, it's hard to say an Easter song because there's plenty of songs about Jesus. Um, New Year's. Well, I guess there's next semester. Start fresh with the new year. I don't know what other holidays could there be to write songs about. April Fool's Day. Yeah, we need an April Fool's Day song. But yeah, I guess I think one person in the chat. I see a little number up here that says there's 2 people watching. But I've only seen one person in the chat so far, or not so far, but currently. So is there anything that you want to talk about, one person? Any songs that you're interested in discussing? Great stream. Thanks. That's awesome. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it so far. What time is it? You're into K-pop. Interesting. I haven't listened. There's one K-pop song that I have on my playlist. I don't know the name of it because it's in Korean. Go figure. But the tune is like such as Just Be, Zykers, Kiss of Life, and many others. Okay. Are those bands or songs? They're groups? Okay. That's right. Groups, they're kind of like the whole K-pop scene is like boy bands. What we in America would consider like boy bands and stuff like that. And like I know that the K-pop industry is just as ruthless as the American pop music industry. Like these people are put in their main girl groups. Okay, yeah. But I know that a lot of those groups are put into like very, they're put into a box a lot like American pop artists are, and absolutely they have them training from a young age. Well, yeah, I mean like child stars in America, like Selena Gomez. She got her start as a kid on Wizards of Waverly Place. I think Britney Spears, A lot of, you know, a lot of these kids are groomed for stardom from childhood. Survival shows over there, so kids can be put into groups. Good grief! Wow, that is rough, man. Oh, oh. That's like it's almost like horrifying to think about, you know? Like being a kid and you're on this television show and the whole country is watching, and if you mess if you mess up, then you have no hope of a career. Man, no wonder the rate of ending it is so high in Japan. Good grief. They're doing stuff like this to kids. I mean, you know, not that we're much better in America. We do pretty horrible things to kids here too. The kids want to do it. They're all about excellence. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I know there's a huge emphasis. What did I say? I was talking about Japan. We're talking about Korea. What did I got them mixed up. I know they're very different, but me as an American, they all look the same to me, I tell you what. No, that's a joke. But um yeah, I know that you have to do well at everything, and then eating fast food and becoming viral. Yeah. That's all we care about is our hedonistic American ways. It's really interesting to see in like Japanimation, like those Japanese cartoons, the stereotypes of Americans. They're somewhat similar. They both love perfection. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. They do have some cultural similarities. Um, but like the stereotypes in the Japanese cartoons about Americans, like we're all fat, rednecks, or we're all cowboys, or we're all, I don't know, like in New York City slickers. There's so many American stereotypes. What's really funny to me is we do the same to them, so it's a fair fight. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't have a problem with stereotypes. Man, stereotypes are fun, you know. Um, it's just fun to see like what other countries. Oh, like the Chinese, how they have those. They'll put on a fake white nose, like this huge nose, and then they act like a bumbling idiot. It's almost like it's like whiteface for the Chinese. It's kind of funny. It's not very politically correct, but I personally think it's funny that they do that. Um, but there's this UFC fight from back in the day. Don Fry and I think his name is Takashima Yamahachi or something like that. I'm probably butchering that name because, but I think his name is Takashima Yamahachi, something like that. But dude, Don Fry, if you haven't seen this fight, go watch it. Don Fry is this big burly hairy chest. He's got this big like fireman's mustache. He looks as American as it gets, and his shorts are the stars and stripes. And then his opponent is this huge Japanese dude with this like this bright blonde dyed hair. And so they both look like anime characters. And when they go into the fight, they just grab each other by the scruff of the neck and they're just wailing. There's no defense, there's no concern for, blocking shots. They're just blasting each other with nuclear strikes to the face. Just it's amazing. It's like an anime fight that happened in real life. Like it's so cool. Like UFC was different back then, man. And So it's like how YouTubers fight essentially. No, no, man, you gotta see this fight. Like they, it's like, it's almost like they had this telepathic understanding. Like, okay, you know what? Let's just see who can break the other guy's face first. Like, who can survive the most brain trauma? Like, they're just blasting each other right in the skull, right in the noggin, I tell you what. And Don Fry, the American, he won that fight, but he said he had deep respect for his opponent, and when he bowed to him, he bowed low. And so that was cool to see. Every now and then I go back and watch that fight, and I'm just like in awe that this happened. It's one of those things that you watch and you're like, I wish I lived through that, you know? I wish I saw that live. But anyway, it is getting late. Yeah, it's past midnight here. And I gotta work in like less than 10 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Thanks for sticking around. I am Clancy. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. I guess consider subscribing. Um, I'm not like a professional YouTuber. It's just a hobby for me, you know. I think this is I've never made videos about 21 Pilots before. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm glad that I got to do this tier list. Your main channel is 4K subs. Cool. I guess I Am Clancy is not your main channel. Only 5% actually watch. Yeah, that's me. Like, I have one video that popped off, got 2.5 million views. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I didn't follow up on it. It's just, you know, like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I've had a couple other videos that popped off, like, got hundreds of thousands. But I just do all kinds of random stuff. I don't, like, stay in my lane, boy. The people will come soon enough. I mean, when I say I do it for fun, I mean, like, I really, if nobody watches, I mean, I post the videos because I like to see if other people are interested in the stuff that I make. You know, I like to share what I make. But at the end of the day, I like my videos, and that's why I post them. So if other people don't watch, or if other people don't like them, yeah, I say, bah humbug is what I say to that. 5 years to get 4K. I think I've been in this about 5 years or two, I think. Stream what I want when I want. Some people watch, don't care who watches, it's just for fun. Yeah, that's the vibe for me. I'm a YouTube hobbyist. And I don't think I'll ever monetize my channel even if I were eligible for it, because I just don't like the idea of making money off of advertising. If I ever wanted to make money on here, I would just, I don't know, make merch or something, just something like that, you know, selling an actual product, you know, providing value to people, not just advertising for somebody else's stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Thanks. God bless. You don't make a lot. Yeah, I mean, I know I've heard that the money that you make is like pennies on here. But anyway, that's all I've got. So, good night.